Hello and welcome everyone. This is my TV Pokemon Go Rainbow Cup Open Tournament in Chicago at GoFest. I touched down at O'Hare Airport around 1 o'clock that day. If you've heard much about GoFest, you know Saturday got rained out and the weather was pretty awful, but we still made it work. We had 200 people register for the tournament, which is really good. I thought it was going to be the biggest one I ever participated in. 69 ended up coming due to the weather, scheduling, other things like that. Here's a quick scroll through some of the team comps that we had at the tournament. If you like to pause this and look things over, maybe get an idea for what you could use on your Rainbow Cup team, that's a really good idea. All these players are really good. People from all around the world coming to Chicago for this open tournament, and it was so much fun. We're going to get into those battles in just a moment. So my first opponent is Quartz Yan. He hails from the Baltimore area, came all the way over to Chicago. I'm going to open Quagsire, he's going to open Mantine. So as we know, the Stone Edge is critical here. If you can hit the Mantine with that flying type will take damage to it. He shields the first one, and then he comes with his own charge move. It's going to be Aerial Ace, which we know we can take. I'm going to try to get to another Stone Edge, but he's overcharged energy, and he comes at us with another Aerial Ace. Here comes our Stone Edge, and we're actually able to land this one. However, Mantine is going to win this matchup with fast moves. Go into Lantern here. I know Lantern can tank the Ice Beam, and it can tank the Aerial Ace, so no need to worry there. I'm going to try and Water Gun it down and charge energy, but those charge moves just don't stop coming. Another Aerial Ace. Doesn't do that much damage. I try to hold on, but I have to use the Thunderbolt to finish off this Mantine. He switches in Venusaur. I'm going to bring in my own Mantine because that flying type damage will work. However, he has a Quag in the back. I try to use the Aerial Ace here to do some damage. It does pretty good. I'm feeling an Ice Beam might come next, but he gets off a charge move. I'm going to block it because I think it's a Stone Edge, and it's actually Acid Spray. I noticed Quartz Yan used Acid Spray a lot on his Quag. It's excellent shield bait, and I think it was a really clever strategy. Here comes another Aerial Ace. We're going to try to knock down this Quag, and we get really close. A couple more wing attacks does the trick. Out comes Venusaur with charge energy, and he hits our Mantine with a Frenzy Plant. We go down, Lantern comes out, but that Venusaur just has too much health. The Thunderbolt is just going to hurt a little bit, and another Frenzy Plant will finish us off. Quartz Yan took round 1, but we don't stop competing. We're going right into round 2. I open Meganium, he opens Lantern. Obviously a great matchup for me. He switches into Venusaur. We have to watch out for that Sludge Bomb. Luckily, I have an answer for Venusaur with Ninetales. As you can see, a little bit of lag there. I think just due to the density of the players and maybe the signal not being that great in that area of Grant Park, we had some pretty persistent lag issues causing the tournament to last a while. However, we're able to Fire Spin it down, and we have some charge energy. I don't want to quit the match just because I don't think the lag had that big of an impact. Whatever comes in is getting a Solar Beam, and guess what? Boom! Land the Solar Beam on the Lantern, and at this point, Quartz looks at me, he says, whoa. That's just the most satisfying thing when you're a Ninetales. When they pin you with a water type and your Ninetales gets the Solar Beam, man, that's fun. His last Pokemon comes out, and it's Quag. We have this match in the bag. Our Meganium is going to use Frenzy Plant. He's going to shield it. Out comes his charge move. We have another shield for ourselves. Turns out to be Acid Spray. Just to be very super safe, I switch into Lantern. He's going to continue to pummel us with that Grape Jelly, but we're going to Water Gun him down and just try and secure this match here. I knew I couldn't be too careful against a player like Quartz. I just wanted to make double sure that nothing could go wrong. So we take round 2, and we're all tied up. Quartz and I move on to the round 3 tiebreaker. I decide to open Quagsire. He goes with Fortress. The Stone Edge and the Earthquake are both good moves against Fortress, but those Bug Bites are going to hurt regardless. Here comes a Stone Edge, and he shields it. I pull up my switch menu just to kind of get a better idea of what my team comp is in case I need to make a quick switch later. I hit this Fortress with a Stone Edge, and I try to make a smooth switch into Mantine, but it turns out to be a Rock Tomb. I was anticipating Earthquake or Heavy Slam, which Mantine would resist. He brings out his Quagsire, and I fire off an Ice Beam. He chooses not to shield, so we get a good chunk of damage there. In comes his Quagsire. I'm expecting the Stone Edge, but again with the Acid Spray. I fire off another Ice Beam, thinking that he probably doesn't want to preserve his Quagsire if he's just going to use Acid Spray, but he does. Another Acid Spray hits our Mantine, and we're going to try to Wing Attack it down. He gets off another charge move, which is another Acid Spray. I know I have a good option here, so I bring in Meganium. We Vine Whip down that Quagsire, and now it is 2 versus 2. He decides to bring in Mantine. Good thing I've got some energy charged up. I fire off a Frenzy Plant. I'm going to Vine Whip and try to get to another charge move. I've got 2 shields, so I burn one here on the Aerial Ace, and then I fire off another Frenzy Plant. He switches into Fortress, kind of a sacrificial swap, but that's okay. I switch immediately to my Quagsire, shield the Rock Tomb, and then I Mud Shot down that Fortress. Out comes his last Pokemon, which is Mantine. Stone Edge takes that, and we take round 1 of the Rainbow TV Cup tournament in Chicago. So after a crazy coincidence, I get paired with another Tampa player. We flew over 1,000 miles to Chicago, and I end up playing my friend and rival Lyndon in this Rainbow tournament. He opens a shiny Fortress Flex. I go with the Quagsire. I try to hit the Stone Edge here, and he chooses not to shield. In comes the Fortress move. Earthquake it is, and we do get our shields up in time. He brings in his own Quagsire, so now he's switch locked. I bring in my Meganium, and we do some Vine Whip damage, and then he hits us with a Stone Edge. The reason I chose Meganium over Venusaur is just because it's so much tankier. It can absorb so much punishment, and it still come out on top. I fire off my Frenzy Plant after he fires another Stone Edge and take down that Quag. Out comes Fortress again, as we expected. We fire off a Frenzy Plant, and he chooses to shield. I have 2 options here, Quagsire and Lantern. I think about it for a minute, and I go in with Lantern. The Water Gun does good damage, but I know that this Fortress has great moves that could really hurt me. And speaking of, Earthquake takes a huge chunk of our life. I go ahead and I bring out Quagsire. I use a Stone Edge just because I'm so nervous about this Fortress getting another charge move. And his last Pokemon is Venusaur. Very well played, Lyndon. Didn't stand a chance there, and you take round 1 with style. Going into round 2 here, I open with Quagsire. He opens with Lantern. Now, this Water Gun is going to do some damage, but Hydro Pump is what we really need to be afraid of. He switches out into Fortress. I go with my Mantine. It's Lawnmower versus Lawnmower, and he gets to his charge move first. I shield the Rock Tomb, and then I fire off an Aerial Ace of my own. Aerial Ace lands and does a little bit of damage. We're going to continue to use these wing attacks, and we get to another charge move. He decides to shield this Aerial Ace, which makes me think he's investing in this Fortress and wants to land this next attack, which he does. Rock Tomb takes down our Mantine, and I decide to bring out Quag. I think about farming up this Fortress, but I'm a little bit nervous, so I land my Stone Edge instead. He brings out his own Quag. I get aggressive, and I go right for the Earthquake. He decides not to shield, thinking it's a Stone Edge. I switch into my Meganium to finish off this Quag, and out comes Lantern. I land a Frenzy Plant on this Lantern, and this game is all but over. He brings in his Quagsire, last gasp, Stone Edge, but we shield it, and the Quagsire goes down. All tied up here, we go into round 3. I'm going to open with Ninetales this time. He opens Fortress. This is a great matchup for us, obviously. I'm going to use those Fire Spins, and he's going to bail. He goes into Lantern, and I have a little switch trouble, but my answer is Meganium. The Frenzy Plant is going to fire off here, and he chooses to shield it. Lantern gets a charge move of its own, and it turns out to be Hydro Pump. Meganium absorbs that no problem, and then we return the fire with a Frenzy Plant. We take down Lyndon's Lantern, and out comes Fortress. Fortress bug bites us down so fast. I've got 2 good options here, Mantine or Ninetales. I decide to roll with the Ninetales. A couple of Fire Spins, and then we shield this next charge move, which is a Rock Tomb. Whenever I play Ninetales, I always like to shield it. I just feel like it needs the most protection out of whatever I bring in my lineup. His last Pokemon is Venusaur. The Psyshock is going to do massive damage against that Grass and Poison typing, and we're going to fire off 2 almost consecutively. He fires off a Frenzy Plant, but we use our last shield to defend that and take down the Venusaur with Fire Spin. As always, great matches against my friend Lyndon. Now we move on to our third opponent. My third opponent is Erwin Danchu. He's also from the Baltimore area and is friends with Courtion. Erwin has by far the most interesting team comp that I battle against at this tournament in Chicago. As you see, he had a Slowbro, and then he goes Magneton. I didn't understand all of the hype around the Legacy Magneton, but you're about to see why. Now, this Magna Bomb just hammers our Meganium. I'm really close to another charge move, so I shield up and I go for this Frenzy Plant. In turn, he does block the move, and then he Thundershocks us down. Now I'm going to go in here with my Ninetales because I think it's my best chance. I'm going to burn my last shield on this discharge attack. And in comes Quagsire. A lot of people were running Legacy Ninetales with Flamethrower and Psyshock. I ran one with Solar Beam, so I was able to trick him and get that move off. After a couple of quick things just happened there, now it's Lantern versus Slowbro. I try to get to the Thunderbolt, and we finally do. I'm pretty close in this match, but Magneton is able to Thundershock me down, and then it has Charge Energy, and it takes down my Ninetales. Irwin takes round 1, so we go into round 2. I decide to open Quagsire, and he opens Poliwrath. Now, Valor Ash was running Poliwrath on his team as well. He's currently the world's #1, and a lot of people were puzzled by that. Well, I think Irwin gives you a really good idea of why that worked. He gets off one Power-Up Punch, and I go for a Stone Edge here. He decides to block and defend his Poliwrath. His next move is a Power-Up Punch. So if we're keeping track, he's 2 Power-Up Punches in. He's able to bubble down my Quagsire because now those bubbles are 1.5 times as powerful. I'm expecting the Ice Punch here, so I block, but it's just another Power-Up Punch. He actually goes for a 4th charge move, which is a 4th Power-Up Punch. I fire off my Frenzy Plant. I know he's got a lot invested in this Poliwrath now, so he's probably not going to want to let it go down, which he does. He shields. A 5th Power-Up Punch comes my way, and these bubbles are really starting to hurt. I managed to take down his Poliwrath, but man, it took 2 of my Pokemon, and I am pretty much out of health on Meganium. I land an Earthquake on Slowbro, and I bring in my last Pokemon, which is Ninetales. With Ninetales, I'm able to fire off a Psyshock, and it almost takes down Slowbro, but it's able to get to one more charge move, which is Psychic, and it finishes us off. My 4th opponent is Pokemaster Valis. I open Quag this match, and so does he. Now it's time for the mind games. Who's going to fire off Earthquake and who's going to do Stone Edge? I get to my Stone Edge first, and I try to shield bait him here. He does not take the bait. Very good move by Valis. I think he's going to return the favor, but he hits me with an Earthquake instead. My Quag is hurting pretty bad. I'm trying to go for another charge move, and I probably could have gotten to the Earthquake, but I go for Stone Edge instead. We take a little chunk of his health, and he dumps his energy here on me. I come in with my Meganium, and this is an easy drop. Now it is 2-2. He brings in his Charizard. I have a couple of attempts at switching, but I finally get my Lantern. His last Pokemon is Fortress. The Water Guns are going to do okay, and the Thunderbolt does a surprising amount. I always have to think twice about Electric versus Steel in PvP. It's one of those typing matchups that is kind of complicated at times. He fires off an Earthquake. I decide to shield it. I charge up a bunch of energy with my Lantern, and Charizard comes in with a charge move. I'm expecting Blast Burn, but it's actually Dragon Claw. I fire off Thunderbolt, and he burns one of his shields. Another charge move comes in, and it's Dragon Claw. I switch to my Meganium, a bit of a sacrificial swap, and I fire off that Earthquake. He decides to shield that. I'm hoping he dumps his energy into this Meganium, but I get off another Frenzy Plant. Takes him really low, and then I get what I want, and he fires off all his energy onto Meganium. I switch into Lantern, but it's just not enough in the tank, and Pokemaster Valis wins round 1. Going into round 2, I decide to lead Ninetales. He leads Quag. I attempt the switch right before the charge move, and I'm not able to make it out. Still, I want to protect my Ninetales, and I decide to shield it. I farm up a little bit of energy, and then I go into Meganium. He fires off another charge move, but whatever it is, I know Meganium can take it. In comes Fortress, and I get the Earthquake at the last second, but I press Frenzy Plant instead. That's okay. I'm going to do a little bit of damage, and then Meganium is going to fall. I have 2 good options here, Ninetales and Mantine. I decide to go with Ninetales. I fire off a Psyshock trying to get the shield, and it works. I'm going to double shield my Ninetales just to protect it because the Earthquake would have taken it down, no problem. Experience a little bit of lag, but I'm able to fire spin him down, and I've got energy in the bank. He brings out a Quag. I switch into Mantine. I know I've got that charge energy with Ninetales, so I'm going to keep that in my back pocket for the final seconds of the match. I fire off an Aerial Ace. He does not shield. His Venusaur returns the favor with a Frenzy Plant, but we're able to wing attack it down. I'm really close to another charge move here, but he fires off his first. Good thing we have our Ninetales. I fire off a Psyshock just in case there's a shield, and he does use his shield. He's going to fire off his Stone Edge. I might have been able to go for Psyshock to win the match, but I was too gutsy and I tried to get to Solar Beam instead. Great game, Pokemaster Valis. Moving on to round 5. Going into the next round, our opponent is Zombie Chew. I decide to open a Shiny Meganium. He returns the Shiny Flex with a Shiny Fortress. Shiny or not, I know I'm going to lose that matchup, so I switch into Mantine. I go here for the Ice Beam, hoping he does not shield it, and he doesn't. We land a solid Ice Beam on that Charizard, but here comes a charge move of its own. It is Blast Burn, which Mantine's Water type will resist, so not a huge deal. I fast move down that Charizard, and out comes Quag. Hoping we can do the same trick twice, and we do. We land a second Ice Beam on that Quagsire. I fire off an Aerial Ace, and he decides to shield. Mantine's done an excellent job. I'm going to let it fall here, and we're going to go to Meganium. Meganium's Vine Whips are doing some work, but he gets a charge move. I do want to keep my Meganium healthy, just for later on in the match. Out comes Fortress. I try to switch, and I get my Quagsire out. So Fortress is going to use Earthquake on us here. That's going to hurt, but Quag will be okay. I try to return the favor with an Earthquake of my own, but he shields. At this point, things have kind of taken a turn. I'm going to try to get off this Earthquake against Fortress and win the match, but it's not quite enough. He has a charge move, but luckily I have a shield. I'm going to use a few Vine Whips here, and we reach Frenzy Plant in order to take down Zombie Chew in round 1. Now, I realize at this point in the recording that I forgot to record all of my matches, so we're going to jump into the next round against Cortana Zoe. I open Meganium, she opens Quagsire. I get to the Frenzy Plant, and interestingly enough, she decides not to block. Quagsire goes down, and out comes Fortress. I try here for the switch, and I go to Mantine. Now, I've been seeing Rock Tombs all day long, and sure enough, here comes another one. I decide to shield that, and I'm going to go for an Aerial Ace. Wanting to protect that Fortress, she does shield. Luckily, we get to another Aerial Ace. Mantine is really quick to charge up, and once those Aerial Aces start flying, it's bad news for the bug types. I decide to shield this Rock Tomb. I know it's her last gasp. Out comes Venusaur, another pretty good option for Mantine to face. I go for another Aerial Ace. She decides to shield. We almost get to another one, but she takes us down. I don't have a really great option here, so I decide to go in with Meganium. I fire off the Earthquake, she's got no shields, and this goes straight through, taking down Venusaur. Out comes Fortress, and we're able to Vine Whip it down. Thank you so much for those matches, and that's GG's to Cortana Zoe. Now our final opponent is Boomer Brell. I decide to lead our first round with Quagsire, he leads Politoed. I thought about bringing Politoed, and I had a lot of fun practicing with it, but I decided against it at the last moment, just the fear of having too much water on the team. I switch into Lantern, he goes for the Earthquake. I'm not sure if I just forgot about Earthquake, or maybe I just thought the Thunderbolt would be enough, but 2 Earthquakes in and I'm out of shields, and Lantern finally gets its first Thunderbolt. He decides to block, obviously, and in comes a third Earthquake from Politoed. Politoed is a lot of fun with the Surf Spam and the Earthquake. I don't really have a great option here, so I go Quagsire. I go for the Stone Edge here to just try to finish off this Politoed and get it out of our way, and we land the Stone Edge. In comes Mantine. I think that might have been the wrong switch because he goes immediately into Lantern. Now, I guess just force of habit, I switch, I go into Ninetales, and he easily takes me down with a few Water Guns and a Thunderbolt. I fire off the Earthquake against Lantern, taking it down. Now it is just Quag versus Mantine. I go in with the Stone Edge here, but I know it won't be quite enough because of the shield. In comes an Ice Beam, and that takes down our Quag, and Boomer Brell takes round 1. Moving on here to round 2, I'm going to lead Lantern, and Boomer Brell is going to lead Venomoth. Venomoth is another really cool pick that I thought about running. That confusion damage just chunks down the opponents, and the Silver Wind does a surprising amount. He's going to use Silver Wind on Lantern, and speaking of, man, that really hurts. He does get the boost as well, so I know this Venomoth is bad news bears. A few more Water Guns, and I go down. I bring out Quagsire. I have to shield whatever's coming next, which is Silver Wind. I go here for the Stone Edge, hoping to finally take down Venomoth, but he shields. In comes another Silver Wind. I have to shield this because I'm really at a disadvantage at this point. I use enough mud shots to get to another charge move. In comes Stone Edge, and Venomoth finally goes down. In comes Venusaur, my worst nightmare. Out comes Meganium, but I know that Venusaur has the energy advantage, and it's pretty much a done deal at this point. I use a few more Vine Whips, but he gets to another charge move. The Frenzy Plant finishes us off, and Boomer Barrel takes the match. And finally, we take a look at the tournament recap. Hip Hop Mollywop is the winner. We didn't fare too badly. If you look down there, I think we're in the top 18 or 20 or so. Really, really competitive matches. So much fun to play against players from all around the world. As a last note to end this video, just a major thanks to Lyndon and Sarah and everyone in the Tampa Bay community that helped me to get out to Chicago. I had a wonderful time, and it would not have been possible without you guys. The community in Tampa is just great. And speaking of community, one of my goals is to really help build PvP communities in Tampa and around the country. So if you have any ideas or tips or tournament styles that have worked to get people more interested and build your own communities in your city, town, or state, I think it'd be really cool if we could grow PvP into a much bigger movement than it is today. It's just so much fun, and it's given the game new life for me. So thanks again. More videos coming soon. I've got a ton of content from Chicago, so stay tuned. Speediest Chief, out.